Hello and welcome to SDN Tech Forum. Today, I'm going to show you a very interesting demo, which is how to use GitHub. And we will talk about everything what you can do using CLI. Although this is not the very first time we are talking about GitHub, as you can see on my channel, I have already posted this video, GitHub remote and local repo, a couple of years back, where I'm actually showing you the Git architecture, and I took a brief amount of time to show you how to work with CLI. Today, the agenda is different. We are going to extensively look into GitHub CLI, what all you can do, how you can pull pull the code, clone the code, merge the code, branch it out, everything. And I'll talk about all the things what you can do. But why we are doing that? Because we have something awesome to build. And what is that? As I mentioned, first we will see how to work with GitHub. Once we have a good grasp on it, what we will do, we'll go ahead and integrate our GitHub to a S3 bucket so that all the codes you're working on your local or remote repo, it can be synced to S3 bucket. Once we have that in place, what we can do, we can host a website, a static website on S3 bucket. Yes, you can run a website without having a web server or Nginx server, or you can host your website on S3 bucket itself. So that's what we are going to build. So get excited. And in this video, we are going to focus mainly on GitHub. Let's quickly recap GitHub architecture. Git architecture is composed of several different components, which are the following. Remote repo, that's your UI, right? The github.com when you go. Remote repo, a remote repo is where the files of the project reside, and it is also where all other local copies are pulled from. It can be stored on an internal private server. So GitHub offer enterprise services also. So that's where you can have internal private server or hosted on a public repo such as GitHub or GitLab. Local repo is nothing but your workstation or your local development machine. A local repo is where snapshot, also known as commits, are stored on local machine of each individual. So if you're a developer, you ideally work on your local repo, and once you're ready, you push this to a staging area. And the next thing is staging area. The staging area is where all the changes you want to perform are placed. You as a project member decide which file Git should track. So as you park your changes into staging area, Git will start tracking things. For example, you can decide to add and commit files to fully become part of your local repo by moving them to staging area. And I'll show you everything, so it will be clear. Working directory. A working directory is a directory that Git controls. Git always track difference between your working directory and your local repo, or between your local repo and if you have a remote integration, then between local repo and remote repo as well. So that is the working directory concept. So this is the recap. You can go watch the earlier video. That's where I'm taking a deep dive into all this architecture. All right. Again, a quick recap. Introduction to GitHub. GitHub is a web-based platform used for version control and collaboration. It allows developers to work together on a project, track changes, and manage code. And we will be writing a short code, and I'll show you how you can track changes and how you can remote push and all those things. Creating a repo. To get started with GitHub, you will need to create a repo. This is where your code will be stored and managed. To create a repo, follow these steps. Obviously, you must have a GitHub account. So go to GitHub website, create account, then you can go ahead and create a new repo. And I'll show you how to create that. Adding files to repo. Once you have created your repo, you can start adding files to it. You can use UI to add files like add file and then populate your code, or you can do upload files. But we will be doing everything via CLI. Collab with other. You can also invite others to collaborate and work with you on the code. Collaborator can then clone the repo to their local machine, make changes. So first what you do, you invite collab to your repo by going to setting tab and selecting manage access. I'll show you this. Once you invite, you need to know their GitHub username. And once you invite them, collaborator can then clone the repo to their local machine, make changes, push those changes back to GitHub. And you can review those changes. And if you're satisfied, you can go ahead and merge those changes. So this is the typical uh, way GitHub works. All right. So what we are going to do in our demo, first we'll create a folder structure on local workstation. That means I'll create a folder to act as a local repo. Then I'll go back to GitHub website and create a repo. Also, you need to create a token because nowadays uh, GitHub has only token-based integration from local to remote. There is no username and password required. All you need is a username and token. Initialize. Then once we have this things created, we will initialize Git in the local folder so that Git will start tracking the folder or anything we add to it. Then we will go ahead and add some content to the folder so that we can create something, modify something. Once we have the local content, we are going to do a git add to add to the staging area. Once it is parked in stage area, we'll go ahead and commit so that it is committed in local repo. Mind it, when you commit, it is not publishing it to the remote repo. It's only committing the changes. Then we will do git push to publish changes to remote directory. Also, what we will do, we will create git branch. So once we have a main branch, if you are a new developer coming into a project, what you would like to do, you like to create a branch, take that code, earlier code, work on that code in a new branch, and then uh, publish these changes to the, say, software maintainer, and maintainer will see the review the changes and other things, and if he or she is satisfied, what he can do, he can merge your changes into main branch. So this is the whole idea. That's what we are going to do one by one in our demo. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste all the commands what we'll use during this demo here and share the link with you. All right, so let's go to our website. Not the websites. So the first thing first, let's create a folder, and I'm going to call it SDN website. Say we want to create a website, SDN website, and we want to create a parent folder which is nested. So now I want to go to SDN web, and within SDN web I would like to show you that we have a image folder, right? So this is what we created, but at this point of time, do we have any Git on this folder? Not a Git repo. So this is not a Git repo. Good. I would like to show you what is the Git version. So if you are using Mac OS, Git is installed by default. As you install your Xcode and etc., Git comes by default. But if you are on Windows or any other operating system, sorry about that. So if you are Windows on any other operating system, you may have to download Git and install. All right. So what we can do here, we have Git installed, but we do not have any Git tracking in this folder. So what we should do, we should first initialize Git. And how you can do that? You can say Git init, right? Initialize empty Git repo in this folder. Let's check ls-la. As you can see, we have a new directory created that says .git, and this is the secret sauce. This is what we use to track all the changes and versioning in and capture versioning information. Let's see if we can go to this directory. All right, here. That's the secret sauce. So you have the Git create a kind of like a topology where it keeps track of where you are, head, and where are the different objects, what are the references and hooks and etc. So it's very simple to use, but it can be very complicated underneath. But fortunately, we are not responsible for underlying architecture. So let's go out of this and see. All right, so what I'm going to do next, I'm going to create some code here and park some images, and then we will go and see what we can do at the remote repo. All right, so let me say vi web.html, and I have created a HTML code here. By no means I'm a HTML expert, but I have created a very simple HTML code which can give us a website, right? And I'm going to paste this here. Let's say, all right, so this is it. We also have the image available. Let me park an image quickly. All right. Instead of CP and MV, I have done a drag and drop. So let's go to CD img and let's -l. As you can see, we have SDN logo there and we have a website. If you're curious how the website looks like, what I can do, I can go ahead and open this for you real quick. All right. So this is the code I written. It's nothing, it's just a simple HTML file which talk about what is SDN Tech Forum, and we have parked an image here. That's it. All right. So sorry about that. So what we can do next is we have our code, we and the images, etc. Everything is here. So, and this is also Git Initialize. So what we can do, we can make some changes to the code and try to publish it to the remote repo, but we haven't prepared the remote repo yet. So what we will do, we'll go to github.com and then create a repo. As you can see, this is my GitHub page, github.com SDN Tech Forum, and here I have many repos already created. But if you're coming to this website first time, you have to obviously sign up, and then you go to your repo and you can say create new repo. Before we do that, let all let's go ahead and do this. All right, so we are going to create a repo, and I'm going to name it similar to our directory. You can make it public or you can make it private. I'll remain, this is test code, so I'll probably keep it private. And here is a typo, SDN web. SDN web is available. This is sample code for SDN website. All right. You can initialize this repo with add a readme file. It's a good idea. And then it says this will set main as the default branch. Change the default name in your setting. So when you create your repo, these are the few settings you have to do. You have to first give the repo name. Make sure you choose what you want to do with this, public or private. So if it is public, anyone on internet can see your repo and clone it. However, you can decide to keep it private as well. Then you can initialize this, and also you can see that by default it create a main default branch. So we are good. Let's go ahead and create this repo. As you can see, we have the repo created. I'm in a main branch. I have only one branch, and this is my SDN web readme markdown file. At this point of time, what you can do, you can add a file or you can upload files. So the code what I just wrote, HTML code, I can go ahead and upload it directly here, but that's pretty novice, right? I want to do everything with the CLI, so as you will do as a developer, but you should know that there is an option. You can create new files or you can upload files from the github.com UI itself. What else you can do? You can also copy this HTTPS or GitHub CLI and go ahead and clone this. So you can use git clone and clone everything to your local repo. There is another tool which can help you work with GitHub is GitHub Desktop, but we are not using that in this video. All right. So our repo is created. One more thing I would like to show you here is going into setting, developer setting, and personal access token. As I mentioned initially, that now your local to remote integration, local repo to remote integration can only possible using tokens. And there are two different type of token. One is fine-grained token, which let you more control what you want to share or how you want to allow access. And there is a classic. So as you can see, I already have a classic token which says Mac VS Code integration. But once you generate the code, you cannot, GitHub doesn't save that basically. So you have to save it to a safe location so that you can re-access it whenever you want. But GitHub will never show you the code again. And you can set a expiry. Just for the demo's purposes, I can show you generate new token, fine grain or classic. Let's use classic for general use. It asks you to authenticate again. And once you authenticate, you can see you can allow expiration. Maximum you can go no expiration. That means it never expired, but that's not a good practice. So you should choose expiration, validity, and then select scope. You can make sure that these tokens give you access to the scopes like repos. You can delete package, you can write, and all those things. You can create gist, notification, and all those things. So it's a good idea to have allow access selectively, at least give the repo access. All right, but we are good. We are not going to go ahead and create any token yet. All right, so let's go to our newly created repo, and now we have the repo available. So we have the local file and then we have a remote repo. Let's go to this and look at our next step. What you want to do, you want to check git status real quick, because now we have created some files, right? As you can see, no commits yet, and untracked files are web.html, right? So web.html is untracked, and we are on main branch. As you can see, we are on main branch. So what you can do at this moment, because these files are untracked, you can go ahead and say git add. And if you have multiple files which are untracked, sometime it can be tedious to name each and every file one by one. So you can use wildcard, or what you can just use a dot, that means all. But in our case, we are good. We have just one file which is web HTML, right? Let's see where we are at this moment. Okay, first we have to go to the parent directory and then do git status again. Now you can see we have two things which are untracked. Let's go ahead and add them to a staging area in one shot. And how you can do that? You can do git add stage, git add, not stage, git add will move it to stage, git add dollar, and check again git status. As you can see, on main branch, no commits, but now these files are, or these codes are tracked. They are turned from red to green, right? If you want to roll back at this point of time, it's pretty simple. What you can do git rm and then the file name. So it will go back to unstaging area basically. But we don't want to do that. So let's do git commit. And when you do git commit, you need to provide a comment. That's what we do with -m. And I'm going to say first commit, something like that. So my git commit is first commit. Didn't match file known to git commit -m. All right. So since we were using space, we should have used quotes around it. But as you can see, two files has changed and it is committed. Let's check again status. Sorry about that. Git status. And you can see on main branch, we have nothing to commit. Working tree is clean. So what happened at this point of time? Did we get the code? Let me close this. Okay. Did we get the code? Let me go to Git and refresh. Here you can see we didn't get the code. HTML.web and img, they didn't show up here. So what happened? All right. So basically the commit doesn't publish to the remote. If you have to publish, what you have to do? You have to do git push. And before you do git push, you need to do a remote add. Right now, if I do git remote -v, git remote -v, we don't have any remote repo set. So what you can do? You can do git remote add origin, and now you have to give the repo name or repo path. How you can get that? You can go to your repo and copy that. Git origin. This is the path. And now let's verify again. Git remote. As you can see, origin is for fetch and push. This is the path we have set. If you are doing it for first time, uh, then you may see at this stage when you do git remote add, it'll ask you what is your username and what is the token. So you need to provide those two things to authenticate. However, since I'm using Git every day, if my other repos are already communicating with GitHub, hence it is not asking me for any authentication. And you can check what is your uh, look like. So what we can do git config global git, let me show you git help, and then we will see. So we have worked with git init. I have shown you how to work with git clone. What else you can do? We would like to see what is the config looks like, right? What username and password I'm using. So let me show you that before we go ahead and do a git push. So what we can do, right, that's the command. Let me find that command for you. Yes, clear. Don't worry, all these commands will be available to you. Git config global hyphen L. So this is what I'm getting with token integration. So my username is SDN Tech Forum, and this is all this path and etc. comes from the integration itself. All right. So at this point of time, we have remote repo set and we have things committed in our local repo. The final thing what we would like to do is git push. Okay. As you can see, we don't have any mainstream or upstream set. So what do you want to do? You want to do this origin main, fail to push some ref. Well, sometime this may happen that this will be rejected because the upstream is not set properly. And what you can do, the best is when you create a repo in the remote, you can go ahead and do a git pull. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this as suggested. First we will do git pull origin main, and that will set the upstream. Your next pull rebase true. All right. So we have main branches, git, and now let's do again pull origin main. All right, it's successful. And what we got as a part of that, since we did git pull, it's a good idea. Now you can see the readme.md started showing up in the local repo. At this point of time, let's stay git status again. So we are on main branch, nothing to commit, working tree is clean. Now let's go ahead and try to push. All right. As you can see, GitHub SDN4 writing object. Let's go and validate. I'm just going to refresh this. Voila. So now we have a web HTML code. We have image folder. Underneath, we have the proper image. So as you can see, we have created some local file, did a git initialize, and then git add to park it to staging area, git commit to commit to the local repo, and finally to publish, we have to do git push. There was some issues, and because of that, we did a git pull just to make sure that the bidirectional communication is there. And once we did the git pull, git push was successful. And after effect of git push, we can see all the local files are available here in the remote repo. So that's exercise number 1. What we want to do next, we want to create some branches, because as you can see here, I have only one branch. But if you are a developer at this point of time, consider you are a new developer and you have task to enhance this website code, right? So what you can do, you can either be a collaborator and do a git pull, and once you do the git pull, you are ready to commit, make changes. So at this point of time, let's wear a developer hat, and what we will do, we'll go ahead and create a new branch. So to create a new branch is pretty easy. What we can do, at, let's see how many branches we have. First, git branch. We have only one branch. Let's go ahead and create new branch. We'll name it dev code, and then check again, git branch. So we have two branches. One is newly created dev code and another one is main branch. As a developer, you would like to work in dev code. So how you can switch branches? What you can do? You can do a git checkout to dev code. Switch to branch dev code. Again, to validate, you can see the asterisk moved from main to dev code. That means you are in dev code branch. However, let's check git status. Still, I'm on dev code branch and I have nothing to edit. Let's go ahead and make an edit. So we are going to edit our web HTML. And for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to vi HTML, and I have actually suppressed a piece of code which I'm going to go ahead and activate. So here in HTML, as you can see, you can actually comment out your code, and that's what I have done. So let me go ahead and say add and delete things here. So now the style will be available. As you can see right now, our code has a white background. Our website has a white background and all the text are aligned to the left. What we are doing essentially here in the code is we are providing some styling. We are saying that the background color should be some color code, golden color, and then the text alignment should be center. So that's the new piece of code we have introduced to this existing one. So let me go ahead and save this. All right, the code is saved. You can see web HTML is in working directory and it is modified and it is ready, not stage for commit. So it is modified. What you can do, you can go ahead and say git add and web HTML. Check again. So we have one code which is available for commit. So let's go ahead and do a commit again with background. One file change and branch. Thing to note is you have made some changes and you have committed the changes by being at dev code branch. You didn't commit it at the main, right? Since we have only committed, if we go to GitHub, you should not see any changes coming in here. And so the case with this, right? So this is committed. Okay, this is opening from my local machine, hence the color has changed. Don't confuse. It is not reading the path from GitHub, that's why. But as you can see in web.html, I can show you the code. The style is still passive. That means it is not a highlighted code. Okay. So now what we can do, since we have already committed and it's just one branch, still one branch. What we have to do, we have to do a git push. Just like from the main branch, what we did, we have to do a git push. All right, let's do that. That was a typo. And as you can see, we have created a new branch and pushed it to the remote repo. Let's go back and try to check. Now we have two branches. So as a developer, you committed or enhanced the code. What a maintainer can do at this point of time, you can see dev code has recent pushes less than a minute ago, compare and pull request. So developer has done their job. They have already enhanced the code, push it to their branch. Now it comes to maintainer to review, and developer and maintainer can be one person only if you are like doing this just for version control. But in bigger collaboratory environment, you have the main developer, and then you have supporting developer. They enhance the code, they push it to their branch, and it is up to maintainer to review those changes and merge it with the main branch, because the main branch is something which everyone will be using for their production purposes. So hence, as soon as you push it to the remote, you can see I'm getting this uh, flag or notification which says dev has recently pushes less than a minute ago and compare and pull request. So let me do this compare. As you can see, I can see the commit comment only, that with background. This is the comment developer sent, and it is comparing base to dev code and tell me that able to merge. That means there is no contrast or contradiction. We are safe to merge here. Obviously, what you have to do, you have to go and look at the developer code and make sure that you understand the code. But since we are the only one who wrote the code, what we can do, say hypothetically, we are satisfied, good to merge, then what we can do, we are reviewing it here, then we can go ahead and open a pull request by clicking create pull request. And here you go. What you can see, SG and Tech Forum want to merge one commit into main from dev, and this is good to merge. So we have created a pull request. Now we are going to go ahead and do merge. For merging, as you can see, we can have like separation of duties, require approval from specific reviewer before merging. So that kind of rule you can add. You can make sure that your code is reviewed by multiple people or at least two people, so that they approve before you merge. And this branch has no conflict with the base branch. That means it is ready to merge, and we are going to go ahead and say merge now. Confirm merge. Merging. Pull request successfully merged and closed. You are all set. The dev code branch can be safely deleted. So what you can do, say you were a developer, join this team to enhance the code. You have enhanced the code. It is merged to the main branch. What you can do, you can go ahead and delete the branch at this point of time, or you can keep this branch hanging if you are continuing to work on the code. So that's the beauty of GitHub, branches, merging, pull, and all those things. Right now we have two branch, dev code, which is the merge branch. That's the good thing. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this here. You can also come and restore. Accidentally, you may delete your main branch. So what you can do, you can enable protection. Protect this branch. I want to make sure that my branch is protected. No one can come here and merge or delete this. And all those things is possible when you create your access token. So that make sure you are providing a right level of access to your developer, so that your main branch is protected and they can have privilege to whatever they want to do. All right, so this is all I wanted to show you. I think this was more than what we planned to do, but I hope this give you a good background on how to work with GitHub using CLI.